Welcome to Young Patriots.
Ibrahim Traoré discovered the coup plot at 6:45 a.m. The attack would begin at 9 a.m. In 135 minutes, either he would be dead or Burkina Faso's independence would survive. There was no third option. The morning had started like any other. Ibrahim woke at 5:30 a.m. in his private quarters, within the presidential palace in Ouagadougou. His routine was precise, developed over 3 years of leading a nation under constant threat. Physical training, security briefings, then breakfast while reviewing overnight intelligence reports. But this morning, Colonel Diallo, his head of presidential security, had entered the room with an expression Ibrahim had never seen before. Not fear exactly, but something close to it. "Mr. President," Diallo said, his voice controlled but urgent, "we've intercepted communications. There's a coordinated assault planned on the palace. Timeline indicates 9 a.m. Ibrahim checked his watch. 6:45 a.m. How credible is the intelligence? Highest level. Multiple independent sources confirm. Former military officers, some current VDP volunteers, and Diallo hesitated. And coordination with terrorist groups operating from Ivory Coast. The mention of Ivory Coast wasn't surprising. Relations between Burkina Faso and its southern neighbor had deteriorated significantly since Ibrahim expelled French forces and pivoted toward Russia. Ivory Coast, still maintaining close ties with France, had become a haven for elements hostile to Burkina Faso's new direction. "Show me everything," Ibrahim ordered. They moved to the secure operations room, 3 floors below ground level. The space was designed to withstand assault, reinforced concrete, independent power and communication systems, supplies for extended siege. Ibrahim had hoped never to need it, but he'd learned that hope wasn't strategy. The intelligence was comprehensive and terrifying. Intercepted phone calls detailed a multi-pronged attack. Armed groups would assault the palace from 3 directions simultaneously. The goal wasn't just to kill Ibrahim, it was to install a transitional government that would restore international order to Burkina Faso. That phrase appeared repeatedly in the communications, and Ibrahim knew exactly what it meant: reversal of nationalizations, return of foreign military forces, and the end of Burkina Faso's experiment in genuine sovereignty. "Force composition?" Ibrahim asked, studying tactical maps on the main screen. "Approximately 200 combatants, mix of former Burkinabe military, some current soldiers who've been turned, and what appear to be foreign mercenaries. They're positioning now in 3 locations around the capital." Ibrahim pulled up satellite imagery on one of the monitors. The feeds showed unusual vehicle movements in specific neighborhoods, patterns that would look random to casual observers, but were clearly coordinated staging operations to anyone with military training. "They're not even trying to hide," Ibrahim observed. "Because they don't think we know," Diallo replied. "The attack plan assumes complete surprise." That was their first advantage. The coup plotters thought Ibrahim was unaware, which meant they'd be unprepared for organized resistance. Palace defenses. "We have 87 Presidential Guard troops on site, another 200 we can mobilize within 30 minutes from nearby barracks. But Mr. President, if they hit us with 200 attackers simultaneously from 3 directions, we'll be outnumbered and outgunned," Ibrahim finished. "What about loyal military units elsewhere in the city? That's where it gets complicated. We're not certain which units are loyal anymore. The infiltration appears to be extensive." This was the nightmare scenario. Not knowing which of your own forces might turn against you. Ibrahim had seen it before in other African coups. The moment of attack became a test of loyalty, and sometimes soldiers who seemed faithful revealed themselves as conspirators only when it was too late. Communications with Mali and Niger. The alliance of Sahel states had mutual defense agreements. Technically, an attack on Burkina Faso's government should trigger support from their allies. Already initiated, but they're hours away even with rapid deployment. This will be over, one way or another, before reinforcements arrive. Ibrahim looked at the countdown clock someone had placed on the main screen. 6:52 a.m., 128 minutes until 9 a.m. Then we have 128 minutes to make sure it ends the right way. But here's what Ibrahim didn't know yet, what none of them knew. The coup plot they had discovered was real, but it wasn't the only operation in motion that morning. While everyone focused on the obvious threat, something far more dangerous was unfolding in plain sight. "Get me direct lines to Russia, China and the AU," Ibrahim ordered. "I want witnesses to whatever happens here. If they kill me, the world needs to know exactly who was responsible." As Diallo worked on establishing the secure communications, Ibrahim studied the intercepted messages more carefully. Something was bothering him about the timeline. The messages indicated final attack preparations, but they were too routine, too mundane. Real coup communications should be tense, secretive, coded. These read more like training exercises. Diallo, these intercepts, are we certain they're genuine? They came through channels we've been monitoring for weeks. Phone numbers associated with known opposition figures, meeting locations that match other intelligence. But the content, it's almost too perfect, like someone wanted us to find them. Diallo frowned, reconsidering the data. You think it's misdirection? I think, Ibrahim paused, a terrible possibility forming in his mind. I think we might be looking at two operations, one obvious designed to be discovered, and one hidden. That's the real threat. The implication hit everyone in the operations room simultaneously. If the 9 a.m. assault was a diversion, when and where was the real attack? Ibrahim pulled up wider surveillance feeds, looking beyond the immediate palace area. Show me everything unusual in the capital this morning. Traffic patterns, power grid fluctuations, communication anomalies, everything. As the intelligence team worked, Ibrahim's phone rang Iturs, his personal line that only a handful of people had access to. The caller ID showed a number he didn't recognize. President Traoré, a distorted voice said, when he answered, "I hope you're enjoying your final hours." Who is this? Someone who's been planning this day for 3 years, since the moment you took power and thought you could defy the natural order. France tried to control you diplomatically. That failed. Economic pressure didn't work, so now we use the permanent solution. Ibrahim gestured for his team to trace the call. If you're calling to threaten me, you're wasting your time. I'm not calling to threaten. I'm calling to offer you a choice. You can die resisting, or you can leave. Right now, take a helicopter, fly to exile, live comfortably somewhere safe. Your wife can join you. No one needs to die today. Except Burkina Faso's independence. Independence is an illusion for countries like yours. You don't have the strength to stand alone. The world doesn't work that way anymore. Then I guess we'll test that theory, Ibrahim replied, and ended the call. The trace came back immediately. The call had originated from inside Ivory Coast, but the number was registered to a shell corporation with connections to a French private security firm. They're not even hiding the foreign involvement, Diallo observed. Because they don't think it matters, they believe that by 10 a.m., I'll be dead, and they'll control the narrative. The countdown showed 7:08 a.m., 112 minutes remaining. Ibrahim made a decision that would either save Burkina Faso or doom it. Evacuate the palace. Every person in the operations room turned to stare at him. Sir? Diallo asked carefully. Not abandoning it, clearing it. I want every civilian staff member, every non-essential person out of the building in the next 20 minutes. The coup plotters are expecting to assault a functioning palace. Instead, they're going to find it empty except for our best troops in prepared defensive positions. They'll know we discovered their plan. They'll know we know about the 9 a.m. assault. They won't know that we suspect there's a second operation. Start the evacuation quietly, make it look routine. Morning shift change. Anyone watching won't realize what's happening until it's too late. As Diallo coordinated the evacuation, Ibrahim studied the maps again. If there was a second operation, where would it strike? The answer came from an unexpected source. A young intelligence analyst named Aminata, who had been quietly reviewing satellite data, suddenly spoke up. Mr. President, there's something strange at the airport. Ibrahim moved to her station. She displayed thermal imaging from an hour earlier. This is unusual cargo activity at 5 a.m. 3 aircraft arrived and were met by vehicles that didn't go through normal security checkpoints. The thermal signatures suggest personnel, not cargo. How many personnel? Rough estimate, maybe 50 per aircraft, so 150 additional combatants. That would bring the total attacking force to 350 mission, far more than originally assessed. But why split the forces, unless they're not all attackers, Ibrahim realized. Some of those personnel are the new government. They've brought in their entire transition team, ready to take power the moment the palace falls. It was audaciously confident, but it made sense. Why wait to establish a new government after the coup when you could have them ready to step in immediately? It would minimize the power vacuum, reduce the chance of counter-coups, and present the international community with a fait accompli. Do we have assets at the airport? Limited. Most airport security is federal, and we're not sure who's compromised. What about civilians? Airport workers, pilots, anyone loyal we can contact. Aminata pulled up personnel files. There's a maintenance supervisor, former military, served with you in the peacekeeping missions. He's on shift this morning. Ibrahim made the call himself. Captain Ibrahim Traoré answered on the second ring. Traoré? I thought you'd be too busy being president to call old comrades. I need your eyes, Ouedraogo. Quietly, there are 3 aircraft at the airport that arrived around 5 a.m. I need to know what's on them and who's guarding them. There was a pause. Ouedraogo had been a soldier long enough to understand that this wasn't a casual request. Give me 10 minutes. While they waited, Ibrahim briefed his senior commanders on the revised defense plan. The palace evacuation was proceeding smoothly. It looked enough like a routine shift change that observers wouldn't immediately recognize it as a defensive preparation. But every minute that passed brought them closer to 9 a.m. The countdown showed 7:31 a.m., 89 minutes remaining. Ouedraogo called back in 8 minutes. You've got problems, my friend. Those planes are guarded by people who definitely aren't our military. Professional, well-equipped. And I got close enough to hear them talking my Kenshir, French with West African accents. Could be Ivorian special forces. Could be private contractors. What about the cargo? Couldn't see inside the planes, but I watched one loading ramp. They're moving people, not equipment. Civilians in business attire. This isn't a military operation. It's a government in waiting, Ibrahim confirmed. Ouedraogo, how many maintenance vehicles do you have access to? For what you're thinking, maybe 3. But if this goes wrong, Burkina Faso loses its independence, and you'll have a new government to serve anyway. Might as well go down fighting. He could hear Ouedraogo's grin through the phone. Same old Traoré never did have sense. Give me 30 minutes. The plan was taking shape, but it required perfect timing. Ibrahim looked at the countdown. 7:39 a.m. 81 minutes. That's when the first explosion shook the palace. It was too early. The attack wasn't supposed to begin until 9 a.m. For a moment, confusion reigned in the operations room. Had the coup plotters changed their timeline, but Diallo was already pulling up security feeds. It's not an attack, it's the power station 3 blocks from here. Someone just blew the main transformer. The palace lights flickered, but stayed on as backup generators automatically engaging. But across the city, neighborhoods went dark. They're isolating us, Ibrahim said. Cut communications power, make it impossible to coordinate or call for help. This isn't following their own timeline. Someone changed the plan. The phone rang again. Same distorted voice. Did you enjoy your final warning? You had a chance to leave. Now you'll die in the dark. The attack is still 80 minutes away according to your own communications. Those communications were for your intelligence services to find. The real attack. The voice laughed. It's already begun. The line went dead. Ibrahim looked at his team. They knew we'd discovered the 9 a.m. plot. They wanted us to find it, wanted us to prepare for it. The real assault is happening now, while we're waiting for something later. Sir, if they're moving up the timeline, the operations room's security systems shrieked in alert. The external cameras showed movement at all 3 main approaches to the palace. They're here, Diallo said. All 3 groups moving in simultaneously. Ibrahim glanced at the countdown. 7:43 a.m. They'd attacked 77 minutes early, and the palace was only partially evacuated. How many civilians still inside? At least 50, mostly lower levels. There was no time for a complete evacuation now. Whatever happened in the next hour would determine not just Ibrahim's fate, but the future of every person in the palace and every person in Burkina Faso. All defensive units to positions, Ibrahim ordered. Rules of engagement: anyone approaching with weapons after this moment is hostile. No warnings, no negotiations, and someone get me a rifle. Diallo looked shocked. Mr. President, you should evacuate to the bunker. If I hide in a bunker while my people fight, what kind of leader am I? Besides, you just said it yourself. I'm the president. My place is wherever the line needs holding. The attack came in waves. First, probing assaults to test the defenses and locate weak points. The Presidential Guard, well-trained and motivated by loyalty to Ibrahim personally, held their positions and returned fire with disciplined volleys. But the attackers were professionals too. They used suppressive fire and maneuver tactics that suggested military training far beyond what typical coup plotters would have. Ibrahim, positioned on the second floor with a clear view of the eastern approach, watched the assault patterns with growing concern. They're not trying to breach yet, he told Diallo, via radio. They're mapping our response, counting our numbers, finding the gaps. They'll make their real push soon. Not if we disrupt their plan first. Ibrahim remembered something from his peacekeeping days in Mali. The best defense wasn't waiting for the enemy to attack where they were strongest. It was striking where they were weakest. Diallo, the western perimeter, that's their weakest assault group. 7 men versus our 10 defending that approach. You want to counterattack? Sir, we're already outnumbered. Exactly. They are expecting us to hunker down and defend. A counterattack from a position they think is secure will throw off their entire coordination. It was risky. Sending 10 guards outside the palace walls meant weakening the inner defenses, but if they could eliminate one entire assault group, they'd reduce the enemy numbers and break the three-pronged attack. Do it, Ibrahim ordered. Hit them hard and fast, then fall back before they can reinforce. The counterattack launched at 7:58 a.m.
The heartbeat of
Thank you for
African
standing with
resistance.
us,
We bring you
for
raw,
standing with the
unfiltered
truth,
updates
and
on
for
Ibrahim
standing with
Traore,
President Ibrahim
President of
Traoré.
Burkina Faso,
In these trying
the man
times,
challenging
your
the global
voice is
system.
powerful.
If you
Don't
believe in
just watch,
truth,
be part
power,
of the
and
movement.
a rising Africa,
Subscribe to stay
this is your home.
updated. Share to
Subscribe
awaken
now.
others.
Stand
And
tall.
head to the comment
Stay
section.
woke.
Tell us
Young
how you
patriots,
feel, what
where
you
revolution
believe,
lives.
and what Africa